Touhou 6 Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. Probably the most popular game in the Touhou series, and despite its shortcomings gameplay-wise, in comparison to later entries, it still represents the very core of what this series is about. However, the game is so old and simple that playing it normally seems a little bit repetitive, so I wondered how I could make this a much more interesting experience. My first thought was trying to one CC lunatic, but then, well, I decided that I actually like sleeping at night and scratched that idea. When suddenly I was struck with a revelation. What if I tried to beat EoSD with a handicap? Namely, by only moving up and down. Would that be possible? And even more importantly, would that actually be any fun? Well, there's only one way to find out. Welcome to EoSD, but you can only move vertically. Now, before we get into the actual game, we need to go through some settings. For starters, since this is the first run, I decided to use the max amount of bombs and lives. Afterwards, we need to select our difficulty. I went with easy since there are only 5 stages instead of the usual 6, plus Remilia would probably counter my entire strategy. Speaking of which, I selected Marisa B for this playthrough for 2 main reasons. Marisa's shot type may not have homing properties like Remus, but it packs a much bigger punch, which is beneficial for boss fights. And secondly, if push comes to shove, Master Spark can just carry us to victory. So with that said, let's get into it. Stage 1 is unsurprisingly simple, even with limited movement, as you can easily avoid most bullets. However, this stage shows us one of the biggest threats to this run's success through the mid-boss, namely center bullets, which can only be avoided by bombing. We're going to be seeing a lot of them in the rest of the game, as most bosses have tons of attacks that shoot straight at the middle of the screen, probably to make their patterns more aesthetically pleasing. Rumia's boss is also simple, but she once again shows us the possible danger of homing bullets. But, with some slick dodging, we managed to get through the stage with only 3 bombs used. All in all, I'd say this stage was quite simple, yet surprisingly entertaining. Particularly the Rumia boss fight, and it serves as a good enough tutorial for the rest of the challenge. Moving on to stage 2. As expected, this stage poses more of a challenge than the previous one, but not by much. The EoSD was a bit annoying thanks to the centered and homing bullets, leading to 1 death and 1 panic bomb. After the mid-boss, the stage starts to ramp up in difficulty a bit, until we reach Cirno. Going in, I wasn't particularly worried. I mean, I had 3 extra lives and 1 bomb, which led me to get complacent and maybe a little arrogant against a boss fight that serves as an example of all the things that can go wrong with this challenge. For you see, Cirno's arsenal consists of the classic centered and homing bullets, only this time they appear simultaneously, and she also adds lasers to the mix. Silver lining, we can still cheese our way through her Icicle Fall spell card. Yeah, this stage, while fun, definitely escalated in difficulty, especially towards the end, causing us to lose 3 lives and 8 bombs. Now humbled by our experience in stage 2, we move on to the 3rd stage of EoSD. And well, the stage itself is honestly easier than the one preceding it. Sure, it has some of the usual crap that we've come to expect, but in far lesser quantities. Plus, the mid-boss gave us an extra life, so that makes things way easier. Even going into the milling boss fight, things are still easier than Cirno, as her attacks are for the most part dodgeable. As such, I don't really see myself struggling with this boss at all. Oh, I didn't bomb there, huh? Well, I guess this is where the run ends. Or is it? I mean, all I want is to beat EoSD. Never said anything about getting the good ending. If that was the case, I wouldn't be on easy mode in the first place. And so, we're gonna use a continue. If you don't like this decision, well, you can still watch through the rest of the video. Unfortunately, none of the full power items landed in the center, so we'll have to do the rest of the boss with 0 power. But hey, why would you need power when you can Master Spark your way to victory? With that said, despite using a continue, I'd say stage 3 somehow felt easier than the last one, despite having cost me 3 lives and 9 bombs, one of which wasn't utilized due to incompetence. Regardless, I still enjoyed it, as it's probably the stage I found the most entertaining in this challenge. And now we've reached stage 4, the notorious difficulty spike of most Touhou games. And the same applies to this run as well, as the number of bullets on screen has increased considerably, making it harder to dodge patterns that should be possible even with this handicap. Not to mention how we also have tons of homing bullets to deal with as well. And of course, the sheer length of this stage doesn't help our case either. At least the laser attacks don't pose a threat this time. Patchully's boss fight was, well, annoying, as he constantly bombarded the center of the screen. Plus, a lot of your spell cards are RNG dependent, so that could definitely make things harder or easier depending on our luck. And it's in this boss fight that we are forced to use our second continue.
But doesn't the fact you use 2 continues completely sacrifice the integrity of the run?
And well, you'd be correct. But hey, it never had any in the first place. Anyways, we use our continue on your final spell, and surprise surprise, none of the power items land on the middle. But no matter, this time I have a plan. So I use a bomb to gather all items on the screen and finish Patchully off at the same time. This is undoubtedly the hardest stage in this challenge, making me lose 5 lives and 14 bombs, one of which was wasted again. And if I'm being honest, I really don't see anyone not using a continue on this stage, regardless of the optimization and RNG they have through the rest of the run. If you disagree, then by all means, feel free to try this challenge for yourself and prove me wrong. And just like that, we've now reached stage 5, the final frontier, with max power, 5 lives total, and 2 bombs on the ready. To be blunt, I was confident that no matter what this stage had to offer, I'd be able to bomb my way to the end. Let's put that theory to the test, shall we? The difficulty in this stage, besides the usual culprits, came mostly from the fact that the space in which I was able to move was drastically reduced, making dodging even harder than it already was. Regardless, reaching the mid-boss was rather easy, and cheesing my way through it was even easier. Though I did lose a life at the end, but that was nothing more than a tactical way to regain bombs. Yeah, there really isn't much to talk about this stage, as in comparison to the previous one, it's both shorter and easy. Oh, we've already reached Sakuya, huh? Well, this is it, the final stretch. The only thing standing between us and victory right now is nothing more than this time-stopping maid. And if you've ever played EoSD before, you can probably guess that Sakuya's attacks are pretty much everything this run has to fear, as most of them are simply undodgeable. Thankfully, this is where choosing Marisa B really proves itself as the superior option, for I can just blast Sakuya into oblivion with Master's Pack on every single attack she throws at me. At this point, I don't think there's anything she can do to... God damn it! She sniped me when I had 3 bombs on her final spell card. Okay, I'm gonna use this continue, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't count. I could have defeated her with 3 Master Sparks easily, and will never speak of this moment again. Is that clear? Good. And thus, Stage 5 was completed, with 4 deaths and 14 bombs, 4 of which were not utilized. Well, this challenge was definitely interesting and surprisingly fun. I honestly recommend you to try it at least once. The biggest obstacles were centered or homing bullets, lasers, and the general lack of power points, which make Marisa B the best choice for this run in my opinion. All in all, this run took me 12 lives and 48 total bombs, 7 of which were wasted, meaning that there is still clearly room for optimization. So if you're into grinding and or challenges, then by all means try this out for yourself and see how well you can do. Also, for those that are interested, I'm going to be uploading the raw unedited footage of this run within the following days, so you'll probably find the link to that video in the pinned comment when that happens. With that said, if you enjoyed this video, then by all means leave a like, subscribe, and check more Touhou content currently on your screen. Have a good one!